Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is ICELAND and this is Discovered on Two Wheels. First of all, if you're wondering why am I panting and I look like a freshly made dumpling, it's because I just finished my run. I just did 12k and it was pretty okay. Nothing spectacular, but the weekly target is completed. So speaking of targets, this week I didn't reach the 200 kilometers on the cycling because we did 120-ish on Tuesday, and then on Thursday we went to train in Regent Park, and that was a different type of training. We did like 1-to-1 interval training. Later in this video I explain exactly what we did. The running 10k was the goal, did 12, so it kind of makes up a little bit for the missing kilometers on the cycling. And without wasting any more time, let's check out what we got in this week's episode. All right, first training session of the week, and today I think we are just over 100 kilometers. The good news is it's not raining because it looked like the British monsoon season is returning, but luckily we probably can get away with a little bit of a wet, but not much. Anyways, for today, really designed the easy route. It's gonna be really flat, because last week that Thursday ride in the wind, boy, that did a number on my lower back. But also, like, when I got home, my quads were so pumped. I was moving and screaming like Godzilla, screaming from the pain, moving because my quads were like properly pumped. I don't think I ever experienced anything like this on the bike. But yeah, today is like, let's call it a long distance recovery ride, and then Thursday I'm gonna have to do a little bit more serious stuff. Also we'll see how I'm feeling. What else? Oh yeah, I got the premium subscription to Strava, and then so I'm gonna start looking at the training slightly differently now. It's gonna be heart rate analysis, pace analysis and stuff like this. So I'm quite excited about that. Actually, I see what is happening while we're riding. And the other thing is that I've been doing the long distance rides for a few weeks now, so I'm thinking about changing the training up a little bit, and then on the Thursdays, instead of going for a second long ride, I'm gonna do something like a VO2 Max kind of training. I'm just gonna have to sit down, put it together, and I'm thinking to do that with the running as well, because been running now again for a month, once or twice a week, doing the 10-kilometer distance, and I'm thinking that my speed is exactly the same, so it's not improving at all. I'm gonna have to do something about that. So yeah, I think I'm gonna need to do some program design. Alright, so technically we have finished the ride. It's only another 10 kilometers left to go to get home. And it was a boring ride, but we got real lucky. No rain at all. I prepped myself that it's gonna be a completely soaking wet day. Instead, none. And Look at that, the sun is out actually, so that is pretty cool. So that is pretty cool. Yeah, other than that, it was quite boring. A lot of city cycling, school drop-off, school pickup. It was a bit of a nightmare, but at least we had a couple of bits in the route where we got some country roads, so we could, you know, do a little bit of a push, have some fun, and then that's it. We're gonna have to come up with something a little bit more interesting on Thursday, because that was the least motivating ride. But anyways, I'm out. Alright, so today's training is gonna happen in Regent's Park. Not going for a long ride today because we did a good few weeks now back to back hitting the 200k a week, so gonna take a little bit of a rest from that, but the training must go on. And for today I've got like a slightly different training. So as I said, we came to Regent's Park and we're gonna be training on the outer ring. The outer ring is roughly 5 kilometers, maybe a little bit more. And so what we're gonna do is 10 laps. 1 lap fast, 1 lap slow. And actually we're gonna start with just a moderate slow lap, and then the second one is gonna be the fast one, third one again slow, and so on and so on. And the idea is, because I don't have a power meter and stuff like that, the idea is that we're gonna be checking the average speed. So I will try to keep on the slower circuits the average speed around 20k, and if everything goes all right on the faster ones, I want to maintain roughly a 30 kilometers an hour average speed. The terrain is pretty much bang on flat, so that shouldn't be too much of an issue. Not very windy, bit of a rain, but it's not too cold either, so I would say that it's pretty ideal conditions. And then from next week I'm gonna crack on with the VO2 Max training, so over the weekend or the beginning of the next week I'm gonna have to sit down and then just make the training plan, and yeah, keep the long rides on Tuesdays and then do the VO2 Max on Thursdays, at least for a few weeks. The minimum would be 4 weeks, that's the minimum. And you know, if I don't see enough improvement, then I'm gonna push a little bit further, and I'm thinking about introducing like a second running session on a regular basis, but again VO2 Max interval kind of training to improve the speed, because I'm a little bit more than disappointed with my running speed, especially after last Sunday's run. That was horrific. But anyways, I'm gonna have to start with the training now, so I will be checking in latest at the end of this training session, but maybe squeezing an update or two between the laps as well. Alright, into the saddle. It's probably gonna be windy, you're not gonna hear much, but we test it out. So 2 laps done. I'm doing my slow lap. This is number 3, so another 7.5 to go. Okay, this is lap 9. I mean, I almost finished the recovery lap, so the last lap is coming, the fast lap. Fucking red light again. Fuck this. Okay, last big sprint. There's a freaking red light. Can't even speak, red light. That's done. I'm done. It got busier here. It got busier here. It wasn't this busy when we came. Anyways, so training session is over. It took nearly 2 hours, which I kinda calculated well. So I'm relatively proud of myself. Anyways, so I ended up doing 11 laps. Jack did 10. My last lap was meant to be a fast lap, but I caught up with him, and then so we did like a cool down lap, and my average speed came out as about 27 kilometers an hour, which is pretty much what I was anticipating for the faster laps. I think I averaged around 32 kilometers an hour. I think the second lap and the third lap was the fastest, because this is where I kind of reached peak, warm up, got my rhythm right, and yeah, so I could push a lot harder there. So, and yeah, and on the slow laps I think I averaged around like 24, 25, so that brings it to 27. It's a shame that I don't have the power meter. I had the watch on my hand, so it was measuring my heart rate, but something is wrong with my data, because it told me that I burned 2000 calories in 2 hours, and that's way too much. Way too much. And another application said 800 and something, which is a lot more realistic, so I'll probably take the 800. Total, I think we did like less than 50 kilometers. So but with the route coming here and then going home, I'm still gonna be below 60 kilometers. So legs are happy. Regarding the statistics, the main thing I wanted to point out is the heart rate. So if you don't have power meter built into your bike, then working with your heart rate is probably your best shot to add precision to your training. This heart rate data was recorded with my Samsung Galaxy watch, which turned out to be not very accurate. The problem was that I had to download the Strava application for the watch, which is not very good. I'm pretty sure that they are working on fixing the bugs, but at the moment it doesn't give you consistent, reliable data. Nonetheless, I managed to record some of my heart rate related data, and it is divided into different zones. So you can see zone 1 is endurance, zone 2 is moderate, so on and so on and so on. And Strava actually tells you what heart rate corresponds to the different zones, how much time you spend in those zones, and it also tells you how many % of the total time have you spent in each of the zones. This is really handy because based on these numbers you can tweak your training, and then again, as I said, if you don't have a power meter, probably your heart rate monitor is gonna be your best friend. Because I want to get more accurate data from my training sessions, I actually decided to invest into a Garmin heart rate monitor, the one which you can strap onto your chest, and I think the model is called the HRM Dual, which I'm hoping that is gonna give a lot more accurate data, and based on that I can analyze my training session and tweak if I need to do so. Just because I wanted to talk a little bit about stats, I thought I'm gonna bring up my all-time stats, both on the cycling and the running as well. I don't want to bore you with me talking about them, so you can just pause the video, you can have a look at my numbers. What I really like about Strava is, for example, with the running, that you can get the estimated best efforts, 1k running time, 1 mile, 5k and 10k, and they seem to be really accurate. I mentioned it earlier in the video that I'm going to tweak my training a little bit, switch it up, and gonna start focusing on improving my VO2 Max. In order to do so, I came up with a 6-week training plan, both for my running and for the cycling as well, and this is pretty straightforward, so again, I'm not gonna go into detail to explain them. You can stop the video and have a good look at it. It is, as I said, it's simple, straightforward, but in case if you have any questions, you can let me know in the comment section and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And now let's move on to the next topic. Okay, you might find this background interesting, but I was like, if the sun is not coming to the UK, I'm bringing the sun here because I'm a little bit fed up with the grey stuff. Anyways, what I wanted to talk about is another observation on the road, and that is people who are cycling with no helmet and the headphones on. That is pretty much suicidal, and hear me out why. They're plugging your headphones and then you're blasting your music, you're having a good time on the bicycle, but you just lost one of your most important senses when it comes to being on the road. And it's very likely that you're going to be reacting a little bit too late when trouble is around the corner. And then as a result, you're going to get pushed over, you're going to get run over, and that's game over. Also, you're not wearing a helmet, and I can tell you that there is not many people out there who hates helmet more than I do. I fear that they make me look hideous, but I understand the purpose of it, and you should do so as well, because sometimes that helmet is the difference between you going out for a next trip or you going to the cemetery. So try to make the right decision. Now that this is out of the way, let's have a look at the crapometer and then see how many kilometers is already in the bike and how is it holding up. Alright, the crapometer is back and the counter is standing at 2,913 kilometers at the moment. And again, this is since I started cycling in late August. Now the bicycle had a little bit of issues here and there, but they all got fixed, so now the bike is running fine. And it looks like it's going to make it to Iceland. Now it's time to talk about some training. And today, VO2 Max is on the menu, so stay tuned. Alright folks, so today's talk is going to be about VO2 Max. I'm going to explain what is VO2 Max, why is it important, and how you can improve it so you get more efficient with your oxygen consumption, therefore improve your performance. If you're into physical training, you most likely heard about VO2 max, also known as aerobic capacity or maximal oxygen consumption. There are many definitions out there of VO2 max. I brought you two examples, a simplified definition and a more detailed definition. The simplified definition says that VO2 max is the maximum oxygen volume that your body is able to utilize while you are taking part in intense exercise. The detailed definition says that VO2 max is the maximum capacity of the pulmonary, cardiovascular and muscular systems to uptake, transport and utilize oxygen while taking part in physical activity. So why is VO2 max important? First of all, when participating in aerobic exercises such as running, swimming, cycling or rowing, the body needs continuous supply of oxygen in order to produce energy, thus enabling constant muscle contraction. The more oxygen can be transported and utilized by the cells, the more energy will be produced, and as a result, the intensity and the duration of the exercise can be increased. When it comes to VO2 max, it's important to understand that the efficiency of the utilization of the oxygen is what makes the difference. So, put it in an example, somebody can have a bigger lung capacity, breathing in more air every minute, but because they are not trained towards VO2 max to improve their oxygen utilization capabilities, can underperform compared to a person who has less of a lung capacity but better oxygen utilization capabilities. In order to effectively train to improve VO2 max, you're going to have to go through certain testing. The VO2 max testing happens on a treadmill or on a bicycle with a special mask worn, which is measuring the oxygen going into the system and the oxygen leaving the system. And then based on that, they can calculate how much of that oxygen was utilized by the body. VO2 max is measured in milliliter per kilogram per minute, and for an average male that would be between 35 to 40, and for an average female that would be between 27 to 30 milliliter per kilogram per minute. Once you know what is your VO2 max at the moment, then you can start working on improving that. There are a couple of different methods you can approach VO2 max training. One of the most popular one is the high intensity interval training, which means that you're going to be working with specific work to rest ratios, and then you're going to perform a certain number of repetitions and sets. You're going to be working at a certain intensity as well to make sure that your body adapts correctly, because if the intensity was going to be too low, you wouldn't achieve the desired adaptations. The other method is the low intensity steady state training, which is also known the cardio training. That means that you're going to go out, exercise for a longer duration at a lower intensity, but there would be no intervals. You would be just working on a constant effort throughout the whole exercise. With both of these training methods, you have different approaches how to determine the intensity of the workout, and the most commonly used is the heart rate and the FTP. Using the percentages of your heart rate or the FTP will help you to introduce accuracy to your training so you can get the best adaptations in the shortest time possible. Now, to help you to understand the different training methods a little bit more, I'm going to give you a couple of examples and then just walk you through, explain what are the work, what are the rest ratios, and so on and so on. The first thing I'm going to be talking about is a high intensity interval training workout on a bike, which is going to be using a 1:1 work to rest ratio. Before you jump into your training session, make sure that you do your warm-up. Spend at least 15 to 20 minutes pedaling at a lighter intensity, about 50 to 60% of your maximum effort. And then in low gear, you can add a couple of speed pedaling, spinning, and then just come back to your 50% again and carry on. You can do that a couple of times. This way you can make sure that the muscles are brought up to temperature, your joints are lubricated, and your heart rate is nice and up. Once you completed your warm-up, then you can start with your actual workout. As I mentioned it earlier, we're going to be using a 1:1 work to rest ratio, and then we're going to set 30 seconds for the work and for the rest as well. In your working 30 seconds, you're going to be push your intensity up to 95%, and in the rest, you're going to stay at around 60 to 70%. You're going to repeat this 8 times back to back. That's going to give you the 8 repetitions. Once you completed that, you're going to take a 4-5 minutes rest, which means that you carry on pedaling but a very light intensity. I wouldn't recommend to come to a complete stop. Now, once your rest is over, the 4 or 5 minutes, depending on how exhausted you are, then you can move on to the second set. And ideally, you're gonna do this minimum 3 times. If you can push it, you do it 4 times. As you see the improvement in your VO2 max, you can start pushing the envelope a little bit more. In order to do so, you can start playing with the work to rest ratio, so it can go up to a 3:2 ratio, meaning that 3 work, 2 rest. It can go down to a 2:1 ratio, meaning that you'd spend half of the time resting than what you spend on working. You can add more sets, more repetitions. There are many different ways you can manipulate the training plan to force the body to adapt. With the high intense interval training, you also have the classical approach, which means that you can still work with a 1:1 ratio, but your intervals are gonna be longer. It's usually between 3 to 8 minutes. For today's example, I'm using a 5-minute interval. That means that you're gonna be working for 5 minutes, roughly at about 90% of your maximum effort, and then you're gonna have a recovery period for 5 minutes as well at about 50, 60, maybe 70% of your maximum effort. You're going to perform this 10-minute round 5 times, which is going to give you a 50 minutes workout. And if you got everything right with the intensity, it's going to be a deadly workout. You will definitely feel exhausted at the end. Now, pushing your body for 5 minutes at about 90% of your max effort is real hard work. So it might be a little bit too much, especially if you started just recently with running or cycling. I highly recommend you to dial back a little bit, maybe start with 3 minutes work, 3 minutes rest, and then do 4 or 5 rounds of that. My recommendation is also, before you jump onto the classical version of the high intensity interval training, try the previously mentioned approach where you're working for shorter durations, 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. That way you're going to be able to build up a certain level, and then so when you move on, when you graduate into the classical training method, you will be able to actually complete the workouts and then gain all the adaptations you wanted to. Now, when it comes to low intensity steady state training sessions, it's a lot simpler. You don't have to worry about intervals. What you're gonna do is you set your intensity, I would say maybe 70%, and then run 5 kilometers. And this is your training, or run 10 kilometers. And then as you're improving with your running or with your cycling, you can start adding more intensity to it, or you can increase your duration or distance. Another extremely important thing I want you to remember is to make sure that you do your cool down after your workout. You've been exercising at a high intensity, your heart rate is up, pumping out a lot of blood. If you suddenly stop, you're increasing the risk of blood pooling in your lower limbs, in your calves, which can be harmful to your health. So always make sure that you do your cool down. Try to spend at least 10 minutes walking, light cycling, whatever is your chosen method. thanks very much for tuning into this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed the content. As usual, if you have any questions, please let me know either in the comment section or you can message me directly. If you want to figure out more about physical training or how to improve your performance, be it strength or endurance, please visit my website. I left the link in the description below and hit me up. I will get back to you as soon as I can. If you're already visiting my website, don't forget to sign up to my free fortnightly newsletter, which is going to bring you some interesting articles about health and fitness. If you're digging our content, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And if you subscribe, don't forget to hit the bell button so you get a notification as soon as we upload a new video. You can follow us on other social media platforms as well, such as Facebook, Instagram, Komoot and Strava. I left all the links in the description below, so just click and hit follow. Thanks very much again for tuning in, and I will see you in the next episode. Take care and stay safe. Ciao!